If you're here for part 2, you're not just watching, you're walking. You're choosing to keep going where most stop. Because what we covered in part 1 wasn't just philosophy. It was a mirror, a map, a moment of truth. You learned to control what you can and let go of what you can't. You saw that the obstacle isn't your enemy, but your initiation. You returned to the present again and again. You chose discipline over indulgence, presence over distraction. You stood inside your emotions without letting them define you. You looked death in the face and saw the gift of now. And now we continue, because there's a deeper kind of strength. Not the strength to lift more, but the strength to see more, to feel more, to live more fully without apology. In this second half of the journey, we explore the often overlooked superpowers of Stoic living. We start with gratitude, not as a daily checklist, but as a lens that changes how you see everything. Then we step into self-worth, reclaiming your value from the opinions of the world. You'll learn to embrace change, not fear it, to meet life's transitions with fluidity instead of resistance. Then we go deeper still, into compassion, not weakness, but strength wrapped in gentleness, into personal excellence, living by your own code, not someone else's template, and finally into reflection, where all wisdom is distilled and your direction realigned. This is the inner work most people never do, the kind of work that doesn't make headlines, but makes character. And if part 1 cracked open the door, part 2 walks you through it. So take a breath. Bring your whole self to this, not to be perfect, but to be present, intentional, true, because this second half, it's where everything you've learned begins to live inside you. Let's begin. 7. Gratitude, the discipline of seeing what's already beautiful. There are days when life feels like an uphill climb. You spill coffee on your shirt. You're stuck in traffic again. The promotion didn't come. The message never got replied to. The news is heavy. The weight is real. And in those moments, it's easy to slip into lack. To feel like life is happening to you, like something is always missing. But what if what's missing is just your attention? What if you're not lacking anything, except the habit of noticing what you already have? The Stoics understood this. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." This wasn't fluffy optimism. It was a discipline. Because let's be honest, gratitude doesn't always come naturally, especially when life stings, when plans fall apart, when the mind fixates on everything that's wrong. That's why it must be trained. Gratitude isn't just feeling thankful when things go well. It's the radical ability to find meaning even when they don't. Seneca warned us about the trap of endless desire. We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more from imagination than from reality. He believed true peace comes not from getting more, but from wanting less. Modern psychology agrees. Research shows that people who practice gratitude regularly experience lower anxiety and depression, better sleep, stronger relationships, higher resilience. And yet, it's not about writing the same list every day. It's about shifting your lens. When you eat, do you taste? When you see the sky, do you pause? When someone smiles at you, do you receive it? Gratitude isn't an exercise. It's presence with reverence. Even pain has gifts hidden in its folds, lessons about strength, about compassion, about what really matters. Epictetus, stripped of freedom and status, still taught, "He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has." That's not denial. That's clarity, because no matter how much is missing, there is always something present. And when you train your mind to see that again and again, you stop living in the illusion of lack. You start living in the abundance that was always there, waiting to be seen. Gratitude also softens the heart. It quiets comparison. It deepens connection. When you say thank you to someone, not out of politeness, but from your soul, you're telling them, I see you. You matter. And in a world starved of meaning, that's a powerful gift. Even Carl Jung believed the word happiness would lose its meaning if it were not balanced by sadness. Gratitude doesn't ignore pain, it gives it context. It says, yes, this hurts, but look, there is still beauty, still breath, still love. So here's a practice. Every night before you sleep, ask yourself, what did I see today that made me smile? Who do I silently appreciate but haven't told? What challenge taught me something, even if I didn't want the lesson? These aren't just journal prompts. They're bricks in the foundation of a resilient, joyful mind. Because when you live with gratitude, not just as a feeling, but as a worldview, you become rich in a way no money can measure. And on the hardest days, when life feels bleak and bare, gratitude hands you a lantern and says, look again, there's still light. Up next, we move into one of the highest Stoic ideals, personal excellence, what it means to live not perfectly, but honorably, intentionally, and with quiet pride in who you are becoming. You're not going to want to miss this next truth. 8. Personal excellence. Live like it matters. So far, we've faced life's storms with calm. We've practiced presence. We've built discipline. We've learned to feel deeply without falling apart. We've remembered death so we can cherish life. We've trained our eyes to see what's already beautiful. But here's the real question. What will you do with all of it? Because Stoicism was never meant to be a theory. It was built for the battlefield, for life, for you. All the mindset shifts, all the inner work, all the clarity, it all leads to this. Personal excellence, not perfection, not performance, not applause, excellence, living with intention, acting with integrity, holding yourself to a higher standard, not because someone is watching, but because you are. Marcus Aurelius, who had every reason to abuse power, chose to rule with virtue. He wrote, waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. That's the challenge. To stop talking, to stop hoping, to stop waiting, and to start becoming. You see, personal excellence isn't loud. It doesn't beg for credit. It shows up in small, invisible acts. Choosing the harder right over the easier wrong. Keeping your word, especially to yourself. Speaking gently when you could explode. Finishing what you start, not because it's fun, but because it's who you are. This is what self-discipline prepares you for. What presence grounds you in. What gratitude opens your heart to. Seneca believed excellence wasn't rare. It was simply the result of consistent reflection and deliberate effort. As is a tale, so is life. Not how long it is, but how good it is what matters. And good here doesn't mean easy. It means honest, real, earned. Modern psychology calls this congruence, when your values, actions, and identity are in harmony. And you can feel when you're living this way. You walk differently, speak differently, make decisions with clarity and peace. Not because life is easier, but because you've become stronger. Aristotle said, excellence is never an accident. It is always the result of high intention, sincere effort, and intelligent execution. He knew what the Stoics knew. You don't stumble into virtue. You practice it, one hard choice at a time. So how do you live with personal excellence? First, define your values. Not society's, not your parents', yours. What kind of person do you respect? What kind of life feels meaningful? Second, audit your actions. Are they aligned or are they borrowed? Third, commit. Quietly, daily. You will fail. You will fall short. But if you keep showing up with intention, humility, and heart, you will rise into a version of yourself that even your past self wouldn't recognize. Personal excellence is not about being better than others. It's about being better than the excuses that once defined you. It's about becoming the kind of person you'd admire, even if no one ever knew your name. And when you live this way, everything changes. You don't chase worth, you embody it. You don't wait for meaning, you create it. You don't ask life to be easier, you ask yourself to be worthy of the life you've been given. So ask yourself, are you just existing? Or are you becoming? Because now that you've remembered what matters, now that you've reclaimed your time, your mind, your heart, there is only one thing left to do. Live like it matters. In the next part, we'll uncover one of the most liberating truths in Stoic thought. You don't need the world's approval to be at peace. You only need your own. And that might just change how you show up in every room you enter. 9. Self-worth. Stop asking for permission to be yourself. You've come this far. You've faced discomfort, built discipline, made peace with the present, remembered that life is short and worthy of your best. You've taken responsibility for who you're becoming. But here's where most people stumble. They do all the inner work, and then hand their worth over to the next comment, the next opinion, the next social media post. Let's be honest. We live in a culture where external validation is the currency of self-esteem, where likes are mistaken for love, where silence from others is interpreted as personal failure, where we shape-shift ourselves just to avoid disapproval. But here's the truth the Stoics knew long before Instagram existed. You do not need anyone's permission to live with dignity. Marcus Aurelius, surrounded by sycophants and power-hungry advisors, saw through it all. I have often wondered how every man loves himself more than all the rest of men, yet sets less value on his own opinion than on the opinion of others. Isn't that exactly what we do? We know our intentions. We carry our scars. We live in our skin, yet we let people who barely know us define how we see ourselves. That is a kind of imprisonment, and Stoicism hands us the key to walk free. Epictetus made it simple. If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid, because the moment you stop performing for the crowd is the moment you start performing for your truth. This doesn't mean ignoring all feedback. It means filtering it through your values, not your insecurity. It means understanding this. You are not your following. You are not your status. You are not what they say, good or bad. You are what you choose to be. Every moment you act with intention, courage, and integrity. This is personal excellence in action, and it's also the root of peace. Seneca wrote, "A man cannot be comfortable without his own approval." So how do you stop living for external validation? Start by asking yourself, whose approval am I chasing, and why? Am I proud of who I am when no one's watching? If the world went silent tomorrow, would I still believe in my path? Then begin the quiet work of rebuilding your self-worth from within. Set standards for yourself and honor them. Speak your truth, even when it's awkward. Do the right thing, especially when no one sees it. Let your values, not your fear, determine your choices. And know this, when you stop needing to impress the world, you finally have the energy to impact it. You become magnetic, not because you're loud, but because you're real. You stop chasing applause, because you've already found alignment. So if you've ever felt like you're too much for some, not enough for others, remember, you weren't made to fit their mold. You were made to stand in your own shape. That's not rebellion. That's sovereignty. And once you claim it, there's no going back. Coming up next, we'll explore one of the hardest, but most beautiful, truths of life. Everything changes. Everyone leaves. And that's not a curse. It's a gift. Get ready to make peace with the one constant in life. Change. 10. Embrace change. Let go or be dragged. Let me ask you something. If you've come this far, if you've practiced presence, felt your emotions without being ruled by them, stopped chasing external validation, faced your fears, your shadows, your mortality, why are you still resisting change? We all do it. We hold on to the job that no longer serves us, the relationship that drains us, the version of ourselves that feels safe but small, because change is uncomfortable. because it threatens the illusion of control we've built around ourselves. But here's the truth the Stoics understood. Change is not the enemy. It is life itself. Marcus Aurelius, a man who watched cities fall and loved ones die, wrote, "Accept whatever comes to you woven in the pattern of your destiny, for what could more aptly fit your needs?" That's not passive acceptance. That's radical cooperation with reality. Because the alternative is resistance. And as Seneca warned, fate leads the willing and drags the unwilling. Think about it. When life shifts, whether through loss, endings, or even success, do you tighten your grip? Or do you open your hands? Remember what we said in The Obstacle is the Way. The very thing you're resisting might be your teacher. Remember and live in the present. Trying to preserve the past or control the future is the surest way to miss what's happening now. Remember in self-discipline, growth comes when you choose what's uncomfortable for the sake of what matters most. And what is change if not the most sacred discomfort? Even your body knows this. Your skin sheds. Your cells die and renew. You are biologically designed to change. So why do we expect our circumstances, identities, or relationships to stay fixed? Epictetus taught, don't seek for things to happen the way you want them to. Rather, wish that what happens happen the way it does. Then you will be happy. That's not defeat. That's alignment. Not resignation, but readiness. Modern psychology supports this too. The people who adapt, not avoid, are the ones who flourish. They grieve what's lost, but they also grow into what's next. Here's how to embrace change with a stoic mind and a warrior's heart. Name what you're clinging to. Noticing is the first act of power. Acknowledge what that attachment is costing you. Security? Maybe. But at what price your growth? Your truth? Ask, who am I becoming if I let go? This is the question that cracks open your future. And remember this, change doesn't always come like a lightning strike. Sometimes it arrives quietly, in a whisper, a nudge, a subtle discontent that says, this no longer fits. Listen to that. Don't wait for life to tear it from you. Have the courage to release it yourself. Because here's the paradox. The tighter you cling, the more you suffer. The more you let go, the more you expand. The goal isn't to become unshakable by standing still. The goal is to become rooted in who you are. So you can bend with life, not break beneath it. So when the seasons shift, when the friendship fades, when the plan unravels, don't ask, why is this happening to me? Ask, what is this preparing me for? The Stoics would remind you, you were made for this. You were not built to stay static. You were built to evolve. Coming up next, we'll explore the virtue that binds everything together. The soul of Stoic living, the medicine for modern chaos. Compassion, not softness. Strength wrapped in understanding. Let's go there next. 11. Compassion, the strongest form of power. We've talked about resilience, about facing discomfort, about self-discipline, about the strength to embrace change and stand alone in your truth. But here's something the modern world often forgets. True strength isn't just how much you can carry. It's how gently you can set things down. The Stoics knew this. They were warriors, emperors, slaves, scholars. They knew suffering from the inside. And because of that, they chose compassion. Not the sentimental kind, not pity, but the kind of empathy that sees clearly and still chooses to care. Marcus Aurelius, commanding armies and ruling an empire, still wrote, "What brings no benefit to the hive brings none to the bee." He saw that we are all connected, that no matter how strong you are, you don't live outside of humanity, you live within it. It's easy to forget this in a world obsessed with individualism. We're told to hustle, to compete, to cut off anyone who disagrees with us. But the Stoics remind us, we are not meant to conquer others. We are meant to understand them. Because when you understand, you don't excuse cruelty, but you see the fear beneath it. You don't justify betrayal, but you recognize the pain behind it. Seneca said, Wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness. Even to those who've wronged us, even to those we don't understand, especially to those. Why? Because compassion is the final form of discipline. It's the proof that all your inner work, the presence, the control, the resilience, hasn't made you hard. It's made you whole. This isn't weakness. It's mastery. Epictetus, born a slave, taught, when someone irritates you, recognize that their behavior is not about you. It is their own struggle manifesting itself. And that changes everything. It allows you to respond, not with reactivity, but with clarity. To stand firm in your boundaries, while still soft in your heart. Modern psychology backs this up. Empathy and compassion don't just improve relationships. They build emotional intelligence, reduce stress, and expand your sense of purpose. They're not luxuries. They're survival tools for a divided world. So how do we practice this? Listen, not to reply, but to understand. Put your story down long enough to truly hear someone else's. Pause before judgment. Ask, what might this person be carrying that I can't see? Extend compassion to yourself. You cannot give what you deny yourself. Treat your own mistakes with the same grace you'd give to a friend. And most of all, remember that everyone you meet is fighting an invisible battle, just like you. So when you feel like lashing out, cutting off, or walking away in cold silence, try this instead. Pause. Breathe. Choose compassion without compromising truth. Because empathy doesn't mean weakness. It means you've done the hard work of knowing your pain. And now, you don't need to project it onto others. That's strength. That's stoicism. That's being fully human. In our final core lesson, we return to where all wisdom truly begins. Reflection. Because what's the point of a journey if we never stop to ask where we've been and who we're becoming? Let's bring it home. 12. Reflection, the compass of the inner life. You've walked through discomfort. You've faced loss. You've practiced presence. You've chosen discipline over indulgence. You've stopped waiting for validation, embraced change, offered compassion. But here's the final truth the Stoics held sacred. None of it matters if you don't stop to look inward. Because without reflection, we don't grow, we just repeat. Without reflection, we survive, but never integrate. Marcus Aurelius wrote one of the greatest philosophical works of all time, not for the world, but for himself. Meditations was his private journal, his mirror, his evening ritual. He asked himself, what did I do well today? What did I do poorly? What did I avoid? What truth did I ignore? That is Stoicism at its deepest. Self-honesty practiced daily. Seneca too wrote, each day we should call ourselves to account, not to shame, but to sharpen, to gently ask, did I live by my values or by my mood? Did I react or respond? Did I act out of fear or purpose? And if the answer stings, good, because growth begins the moment denial ends. Epictetus taught his students to review every day before bed, not as self-criticism, but as self-alignment. Modern psychology now echoes what the Stoics knew all along. Reflection rewires your mind. It builds emotional intelligence, deepens resilience, and strengthens your sense of meaning. But this isn't about long journaling sessions or spiritual rituals. It's about creating a habit of pause. Even 2 minutes of honesty can redirect an entire life. So here's your practice. Each night, ask, what challenged me today, and how did I meet it? Where was I proud of myself? Where could I have done better? What am I avoiding that needs my attention? Then forgive yourself, thank yourself, and decide, who will I show up as tomorrow? Reflection turns experience into wisdom. It is the mirror in which the soul recognizes itself. And most of all, it keeps you from drifting. Because if you don't choose your direction, the world will choose it for you. So as we close this journey, I invite you, don't just absorb these principles. Return to them, revisit them, Reflect on them. Let them evolve with you as you evolve through life. Because in the end, it's not about being stoic. It's about being awake, intentional. True, you've walked through 12 principles. Now the 13th begins your life. The question is, who do you want to become now that you know what's possible? 13. Integration. Live like the philosophy is already inside you. You've heard the words. You've felt the truths. 12 ancient principles, each a door. But here's what no one tells you. Wisdom only becomes real when it becomes you. Because Stoicism isn't a list to memorize. It's a way to move through the world. A way to breathe. To speak. To choose. To be. And now, it's your turn to make it real. So tomorrow morning, when the alarm goes off and your bed feels warm, remember self-discipline. Rise anyway. Choose your higher self over your comfort. When you're cut off in traffic or someone speaks sharply, remember control. You don't need to give your peace away just because they lost theirs. When plans fall apart, when life turns left instead of right, remember the obstacle is the way. There's no detour. This is the path. When anxiety whispers, "What if?" or your mind replays a past regret, remember to come home to the present. This moment is the only one that loves you back. When temptation calls your name, when impulse pulls at you, remember who you said you wanted to become. Discipline is choosing that version of you, even when it's hard. When emotions rise like tides, anger, sorrow, fear, don't run, don't react. Remember resilience. Feel deeply, but don't let it drag you out to sea. When your heart aches, when you fear the end, remember memento mori. You are mortal, and that's what makes this life so holy. When things feel small, frustrating, not enough, remember gratitude. There is so much already here. If only you learned to see. When no one applauds you, when no one understands, remember personal excellence. Your integrity doesn't need an audience. When judgment comes, when you feel unseen, remember self-worth. You're already enough. Especially when you stop trying to prove it. When everything shifts, jobs, seasons, people, remember change is not loss. It is transformation in disguise. When you feel hardened, cold, like the world is too much, remember compassion. Softness is not weakness. It's what keeps the fire alive. And at the end of each day, when the world grows quiet, sit with yourself. Just for a moment, remember reflection. Not to criticize, but to align. To ask, am I living like it matters? Because here's the secret. You don't need more information. You need more embodiment. You already have the wisdom. Now it's time to live it. Not someday, not perfectly, but now, beautifully, courageously, imperfectly, now. Final reflection. The journey doesn't end here. It begins with you. If you're still here, it means something in you is waking up. Maybe it's the quiet voice that's always been there, asking for more than just survival. Maybe it's the part of you that's tired of pretending, tired of reacting, tired of waiting for life to change. Maybe you're ready to live differently. The 12 Stoic principles and the final act of integration weren't meant to impress you. They were meant to arm you, to remind you that everything you seek, peace, strength, clarity, resilience, it was never out there. It was always within. Every lesson you just heard isn't complete until it's lived. Not tomorrow, not when life gets easier. Now, start small. Pick one idea, one truth, one practice. Make it yours. Live it until it becomes your nature. Because no one else is coming to save you. And that's the beauty of it. You're already enough. And now you are aware. So take what you've learned and walk with it. Walk with more courage, more stillness, more grace, more truth. And when the world pulls you off track, come back to these words, to this philosophy, to yourself. This video ends here. But you've only just begun. If this journey spoke to you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who's ready. And if you haven't yet, subscribe. Not for numbers, but for the conversations that matter. Because here, we don't just talk about growth. We live it together. Click the next video. Take the next step. And above all, live not just for the applause, but for the cause of becoming fully, authentically, courageously you. Until next time, stay grounded, stay awake, and keep walking the path.